Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. Grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy this midweek episode. We're going to be looking at a few things that people have been worried about, a few things that people want advice on, all on the forums. It's an array of things, essentially, but hopefully some of these things will help you out in your own personal gameplay, or be able to, it's just, something to listen to and have a good time with it, essentially, because some of these posts are a bit different and I want to debunk them, I want to help with them, I want to do whatever I can with them, because people do post some actual good stuff on the forums that require the attention of Blizzard and the community itself. But we'll start off with the first one. This one is Warlock specific. Tips or guides for Warlock shuffling. Now, this is tips and guides that can be used for everyone as well. This isn't just Warlock shuffling. This will be kind of a general one, I will say as well. I'm trying to hit 1800 on my alt lock, but with how wild and troll players have been, I'm trying to figure out how to control more triple melee lobbies. DH War Red, I'm playing Demo. Healers are usually Mistweaver or Priest, and I just can't have a room, for breathing due to some facts. Ret's just freedom or curses. I try to put between me and War or DH. Healer doesn't get too close to me or play around portals. What could I possibly do? I have impish instincts. I always soulburn port to kite and run, but either DH or War gets to me, and I have one cast off, and then it's a stun, interrupt, fiesta. Okay, so I will address this part first. This is the first half. So, it is true there are a lot of melee in solo shuffle right now. It is melee fest right now at this current time in the season. Mainly demon hunters, but there are DKs, Rets, warriors. There's never usually a full ranged caster lobby. It's always full melee lobby. Now, elemental shamans are part of this, but that's because they have a lot of utility, plus their rotation is pretty much self-explanatory on its own. You don't have to do anything. But if you want help in terms of a melee lobby, you can't really do much about it. What you're doing is the port and the soulburn and port, but what you need to keep doing is running. After you've ported, that's great, but the best thing about the soulburn port is that you are immune to CC or slows is the best way to say it. So if you run, they will charge you, they will leap to you, they'll fail rush to you, however they get to you, but you still have that slow immunity for several or a few seconds afterwards. So you keep running with your speed up and you get more distance, and they won't be able to get there because they're using a lot more mobility to get to you. They're using 2 lots of mobility rather than 1. So eventually they're going to run out. Eventually. But it feels like every melee has like 200 things to catch up to you. As for Demo Lock, I can't speak specifically, but what you're planning on doing is, depending on your other melee, it's best to try and just get CC on the healer. Don't force it, or don't try anything like that. But the best way that you can do this is depending on the map. So let's go with Ruins of Lordaeron. Okay? Ruins of Lordaeron is a very awkward map and a very good map for melees, because all you have is one tomb in the middle, and it's very, very awkward for casters if that healer is playing around the tomb to get CC. So what you want to do is drag the melee into very unfavorable positions. And what this means is, basically, if you have to go into your spawn room, do it, because that way the healer has to come out to heal them. Otherwise, they will die, and this means that you can get easily more CC. Now, obviously, this will go both ways. Your healer will also be in the open, but depending on how favourable the matchup is for the healer, then they might win it, they might lose it, but essentially you want to be dragging their healer into awful situations, because melee DPS and shuffle don't tend to look at where their healer is a lot. They very much do just zug and go in and not care. So that's probably one of the best things that you can do is demand a poor positioning from their melee DPS, which will drag their healer out. Now, as for damage rotation, I know it's going to be very rough. As a demo lock, as any sort of lock, as a mage, it's going to be rough anyway. But best way that you can do it is after you've gotten there, essentially, or gotten away, you can start spam fearing, and when they're within range, you just keep spam fearing, but essentially want to try and juke a precog. And during this 4 seconds of precognition that you get, you want to send out as much damage as you can. So Tyrant, your Dreadstalkers, and then just one hand of Gul'dan and, run away kind of deal. Again, it's all about kiting, and I know that there seems to be so many things that they can do to catch up, but they will run out eventually, and if you survive long enough, you eventually win is the best thing. Your best offense is a great defense, the best way to put it. So if you're kiting really well and you're dragging their DPS into poor positions where their healer can get CC'd, then it's going to be very good. It's all about the healer positioning, to be honest, against double melee. If you can drag the healer out, then that's perfect. If you can get him into a poor position, then it's just great. Mistweaver on other team is usually fistweaving my life, either of the 3 DPS that I'm tagged with don't peel or CC anything, and I just get in the middle of a cleave fiesta, and I'm there just looking at my life, wondering why I'm doing this to myself. It's really player orientated on how either have good interrupt / stuns to allow me to run, or actually having a good port, coil, fear, or axe toss fear to open a small window to be able to start casting. The micro interruptions from Mistweaver fistweaving, or the warrior literally glued on me with either healer or really not peeling off me, or using CDs properly, have given me the feeling of I can't do anything besides what I'm doing when I'm so locked away from casting besides some small windows. Okay. With healing, if it is a fistweaver, if it's anything like that, the best thing that you can do, actually the best thing that you could do for any double melee is, run. So far. Now, I get that you want to port and then cast your damage, but if you are the main target, you want to run so far. You want to make it so that they actually switch to your monk, or whoever is on your team. That you want them to switch to the other DPS. Now, you don't want to run behind a pillar and get CC'd there, and then your healer's out of line and all of that. You want to keep in the open, but you just want to kite around the edge of the map kind of deal, is the best way to put it. But yeah, honestly, when you port, you just keep running. You spam your curses, no matter how much you think that they're dispelling them, freedoming them, you just keep spamming your curses. Especially with Fistweaving Monk, you want maximum uptime on Curse of Exhaustion. They can get out of it due to Chi-Ji, and no, Essence Font, I should say, and Tiger's Lust, which, gives them a speed increase, but they are on a cooldown, them 2 things, because the Essence Font requires you to use the Thunder Focus T to become CC immune, or slow immune, if that makes sense. So that's the best way to deal with that. But yeah, honestly, you just want to run. Let your other DPS deal with it. If they do just somehow try and chase you down without switching targets, you just keep running. That's all you got to do. You don't actively have to do damage in order to win a solo shuffle. If you can survive long enough and just kite them so that they aren't doing damage, but your DPS is getting nice uptime, then they will figure it out, okay? They will figure it out. And with how Shuffle Damp works, that's probably the best way to do it, because Demo Lock will win in damp situations. It won't really win in any other situations unless it's a really good setup comp, but that's usually only in 3s with shadow play and stuff like that. It's very tough. This goes for most casters as well. You just want to keep kiting from these melee and surviving, because they will just keep chasing. Some melees don't have the idea to switch targets, and it shows. It really does show. So if you're managing to just run away for years, that's probably the best thing to do. So With impish instincts, any sort of damage can proc the impish instincts. So even if you're taking throw glaive damage, and you haven't been hit by an actual melee ability for 15 seconds, we'll say, you will be about 10 seconds away from that teleport again. So they will have so much downtime on you that it's not in their best interest to actually, go you, if that makes sense. Obviously, you got to make sure that you're trading perfectly when they're using cooldowns. So if they Avatar Blade Storm, Metamorphosis, you just want to immediately Soul Burn, TP away, Dark Pact, and just book it. Just run. Don't care about anything else, just run. And if you have Shadow Meld, you Shadow Meld the bolt that's flying in, or you just insta-trinket the first stun that they do from range so that they can't catch up to you. You might not think it's worth it, but it really, really is. That's the difference. It's tough to say, but you ideally want to get to dampening most casters when melee have a lot of mortal strikes, so they can kill when it isn't high dampening. Obviously, there's a point where you need to go aggressive, because if you get to 80% dampening and you're just kiting doing no damage, you will still eventually lose because your healer isn't being able to keep up with the small bits of damage that are being sent your way anymore. But yeah, hopefully that helps with anyone struggling in solo shuffle as more of a ranged caster thing. But, it is what it is. It's very rough right now at the moment, and it's, casters, we just got to get through it, essentially. The only casters that are good, or a lot easier to play right now, is Ellie Shaman, because it doesn't ever need to cast. Who would have thought a caster that doesn't need to cast? They went that route with Boomkin a couple seasons ago, where we think Boomkin's not casting enough, and yet you've got Ellie Shamans jumping around, slamming their head on the desk, just pressing Earth Shock and Lava Burst without casting a thing, Yeah, not sure how that one worked out, Blizzard, but, it is what it is. And this next one is really nice, bless it. I'm starting to find these ones, which is really good. I'm starting to get into Arena about 2 weeks ago. Whenever a match starts, I know what the rotation is for my spec. I started out doing things right, but I start to panic. Kill times are quick in this game mode. I mess up rotations because I still have to look at my spells/keybinds, which I would figure I would know by now. I realise a lot of these problems come from being not experienced in arenas. I can do the rotation better in Battleground Blitz because I guess it's a less pressured mode. I still am having to look at my keybinds, but not as bad. Any advice on how not to panic and learn your keybinds quicker? Also, you may not be able to help me with this, but do you have any way to force yourself to watch your own gameplay to try and improve? I can record my games, but refuse to watch them. If you don't like your voice, you can just simply turn the sound off on your keyboard. If you think that it's dogshit gameplay, it's one of them things where you have to realise that you're watching it to get better, to get out of that dogshit gameplay mentality, if that makes sense. But as for your rotation, it takes a long time to know your rotation in a arena setting because a lot of things are happening. You can be stunned mid setup if you're a rogue. This person is a rogue that's posting. So if you're stunning the two targets, you stun one, stun two, but the third one stuns you before, you either have to make a very quick decision to trinket it and stun them to get the go, or you just let it sit and you just wait. But that's very situational. You don't really know which one's best. But honestly, it takes so long to figure it out. The best thing that I can give you in terms of advice is to hit a training dummy. Just practice your single target training dummy and then incorporate the cleave target dummies with it. So if you're a rogue, you want to obviously set up some CC on the off targets. So you practice your first rotation, your just normal rotation on the training dummy constantly. And after an hour or two, you're like, okay, let's try to add some CC in there. So you step kidney the off target and then step or hook back to the main target and start your damage rotation. You start getting that muscle memory built up. It takes so long. And I cannot stress enough, it takes probably years, to be honest, to understand each situation in an arena. Your keybinds obviously just take a lot of time. Depending on the class, there's going to be more or less keybinds. Rogue certainly has a more unique palette of keybinds because you need primarily more macros to step the off targets, to kidney them or cheap shot them, etc., etc. But it just takes a lot of time and figuring out. It's very tough to give this advice because I really hope that this guy plays long enough arenas to enjoy it, because it does take a while to actually get into for some people. And, you know, it is what it is. A lot of people hopefully will follow in this guy's footsteps and start playing arena, even though it is very daunting. And yeah, that's all I can say, really. It's so daunting that newer players get thrown off really quickly. I'm going to end it here, but want to leave you with this. I had a solo shuffle on a new sort of ult that I was playing, and one of these people came into the arena in full PvE gear. He was not the best. I'm going to say it as it is. He was not great at PvP. He was level 10 honor. Like, he was on a level 10 or whatever it is. So he's played very few battlegrounds, very few arenas and stuff. This is a solo shuffle. This is 1500. Wherever you're put in for a new sort of ult, it seems crazy to me that newer players are put in at that rating, because you can get a mix of like good players and awful players. But this person was trying their hardest. He just wasn't good. He had no experience. He was in full PvE gear apart from trinkets. And usually his first global was Divine Shield. And that's pretty rough, to be honest. It's that, or like it was when he was 50%, he was worried because he didn't trust healers. And, you know, the healers need to be trusted in these circumstances and all of that stuff. But bless him, he was getting so much hate. I did throw him a message afterwards because he did end up leaving and rage quitting or just leaving because he wasn't enjoying it, the arena. And I did end up sending him a message saying, don't worry about it, because a lot of people in there were being dicks essentially to someone who was new at arenas. And I said, you'll get there. Honestly, don't worry. You'll do great. Just take your time with it. It takes a lot of time. Didn't get a reply, but hopefully that helped him. And it is sad to see that people don't realize that this is a newer player in arenas, and that instead of berating them for not playing like a rank 1, that, you know, they aren't trying to help them out and just be like, hey, don't worry about pressing bubble. If you get really low, then I understand, but trust me, like if I'm a healer, I've got you for like the first part, all right? You know, that kind of deal. But it is what it is. It's just the community and the mentality that people have when going into solo shuffles and stuff. It can't be helped, I guess. But thank you all very much for listening. As always, do check out all of the socials down below. Constant stuff happening over there. Thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.